Hey guys, it's me again, Orchler. What ifs? Where we last left off? Let's see. Checking. So, where we last left off, let's see. Belle recovered. Belle helped Lily and had that whole situation happen with her. If I remember, Konarique sent some assassins. Or, well, I said that in the part before that last one. They met Welf and Belle got a new sword. It's much smaller, so that way it can be useful in close range instead of having that giant two-handed sword he swings around. Because he realized, like, after the encounter with the ants, yeah, it'd probably be useful. Right now, he's just using the smaller sword with one hand, as he has the two-handed sword on his back. As with that being said, Deku, well, sorry, not Deku, sorry, Belle, Lily are going on their single adventure today. As we cut back to earlier this morning, as well, like, they all tagged along together. As they all tagged along together, eventually, like, Lily and Wolf got tired and, like, hey, Belle, can we go back upside? We've been in here for a while and we stopped and had lunch and such, so, you know. Wolf said he actually had a few things to, like, make. Like, a few things to try and sell from his smithing place. And Lily says, yeah, I actually got a thing to do with the guild. Well, not with my guild. Yeah, pretty much with her guild person. I forget what the guild manager, there we go, as she talks about, like, withdrawing some funds, or if she could, like, store some funds in there, because she's trying to save everything up. Like I said, from the looks of it, it looks like the guild just gives them their money, but I'm unsure if they, like, do the same services of, like, a bank would do, because they just seem to, like, hand out money for the stones, and the stones are used for a purpose. As in, they pretty much, like, adventurers just spin through the money rapidly. I don't know. I'll have to look that up later, because I never really looked in depth on how that worked. But as Lily and them go back up, Deku's like, not Deku, Belle says, it's alright for you guys to go back up. I don't mind. You guys have earned a break for a day, I'd say. He's like, we've already worked for the day, though. He's like, yeah, tomorrow you guys can have the day off. I'll go adventuring by myself if you wish. Because I wish to keep on trying to grow. I may head deep, plus without you, I may find a challenge. As they both notice that he hasn't been using his magic, quote-unquote, as much. And he seems to be getting better with his swordsmanship, as we cut to earlier, like a few days ago. Well, it's been a few days since they met Welf and such. Well, not a few days, but like a week or so since they met Welf. As Welf has actually provided Lily actually a better weapon than what she was using prior to that, like, little dagger. As he says, it's sort of like a gift for helping him and such. She's like, thank you. As when they continue on, Belle eventually is meeting up with Eyes and such. As Eyes speaks with them, so, you came again, he's like, yes. As it's like a few days ago. As he speaks to her saying, I hear you are the best swordsman. As he found her out in the open someplace during, like, a few days ago. As he's speaking, we're talking about how his magic is very useful, and he can't, as he asks her for training. He says, but... okay. What the heck? As he says that he can't offer training in magic, but he would offer payment to her in the form of Valis for teaching him how to sword fight and such. As he heard that she was the best in Orario. or at least one of the best. He's heard whispers of the guy called King or something other, who's part of the Freya Familia, but I haven't been able to find him. So I want someone high skilled to teach me about sword fighting. I knew a lot, but I became too reliant on my magic. I need your help in returning to the roots, you could say. She's like, well then, as she's like, leads him somewhere, shall we? As she takes out her, I believe she uses her scabbard at first, then, or sheath, whichever you prefer. As then Belle chooses his tiny sword, as she's like, oh, that's weird, where'd you get that? He's like, I have a smith that joined my party. I used ant mandibles to make it out of it. It's sturdy, so it should work fine. As he sort of like got, not low, but he sort of got into a position where he could most like make use of his heavy armor as well as this the short sword. Well, not, yeah, I guess it's very small for his size. As he like stretches his arms out, and she's like, alright. As she moves forward, Belle rushes forward as well. As he swings the sword, sort of like smashing it right, well, not smashing it, but like cutting right into the sword, as they are somewhat dueling. As he's trying to keep up with her, as he keeps on trying to block, but eventually he's disarmed as his sword is thrown from his grasp. As he's like, oh, dang it. She moves over, picks up the sword. He's like, alright. Alright. Oh, sorry. You keep on having to hear me yawn. But he says, alright. As he brings up his arm again, let's go again. As that's pretty much his life. Well, not life, but he does train for several days in a row. Trying to, like I said beforehand, he's trying to regain that skill he built up in, like, his early years at Parthenax's temple. Then afterward, he just became too reliant on the shouts. Especially, even after, like, you know, the dragon battle, he, like, would just slice and, like, try to stab into the dragon, since, well, beforehand they were slow and lumbering. Human fighters were rare, like, after a while, so he just stopped using his sword, really. Though he did keep up, like, somewhat of a training regiment, or not regiment, but he would pretty much be walking everywhere and fighting every day. He even, like, kept on practice with his sword, but without someone to spar with or anything, he sort of just, like, you know, became not nonchalant, but there was no one to, like, spar with. No one of high enough caliber to give him that challenge he sought, or that, sparring partner that he needed to keep his skills sharp and to grow. He lost that after a while. So, but now in Aurario, he can go back to, like, proving himself. As he duels with Eyes, as she isn't using, like, all her strength. Because she's even, I believe she's a higher level than even Bet. And even if strength isn't her, like, strong suit, with her ability to cut through, like, monsters and such more easily than Belle can, it proves that her gear is good, but also proves that she's also pretty strong. As Belle, like, is somewhat struggling with this young girl in his eyes. I believe Eyes is, like, 15, 16, and Belle's, like, in his 20s at this point. As it would look very silly from the outside, but once you realize that Eyes is a veteran adventurer who has been fighting monsters for years, and beforehand she was supporting adventurers beforehand for years. Then if you cut to Belle and such, you look at his past, but you also realize that he wasn't having the helpful boost of adventuring. He was just gifted with the shouts and higher strength and such, but, you know, that doesn't really, can't, like, carry him through life. It could have possibly done it if he was in Tamriel for all his life, but now he's in Aurario, having to settle for something else. as there's possibly a dragon that could burn Tamriel to its cinders. Anyways, as Bell settles that we eventually get to the day where he's going to the thing by himself. Oh, son of a bitch. As when Bell starts going down to the dungeon, 3 mysterious figures follow him down. As they're keeping a distance from him, as they're speaking to each other, as it's like whispers, but they try to keep their distance till he's alone. As Bell's going to around floor, I think it was like floor 12, maybe 10, I'm not entirely sure. The floors can get confusing, but he's going down to the floor where he fights the Minotaur. As eventually the figures have somewhat surrounded him, as they each appear in front of him and to his left and to his right. As they stomp there, as they surrounded him, he's like, "I have no quarrel with you, and I do not wish to harm you." As it says, as they say their names, as he's like, as he takes a moment to realize strength, cunning, as he's about to draw his sword and shout, they do the hex as he's like, as he says, "Konari taught us many things, Dovahkiin, champion of Akatosh. But the cult will not be stopped, and we will stop you before you grow." As they ready their swords, as a few adventurers come over to see what's happening, like, "Hey man," "Hey guys, leave him alone." As one of them approaches, Strength pretty much takes an axe he had as he slices right through the guy. As the other two are like, "What the?" As it says, speaks to the guy who is Speed, as he is quickly able to rush over there and slice a couple of them to the bits. As they think they're dead, as they crawl away, even though they can't see them, as they say, "Konubik asked us to try and convince you, but we know better. You tore down the dragons at the whims of Akatosh, but we will see you killed." As they each bar their weapons, Cunning, which is his name in the dragon language, but I don't know what cunning means, or what the word cunning is. So it's just pretty much cunning, strength, and speed, I believe is what I called them. Sorry if it's not. As each of them readies up, as Bell says, not says anything, his mouth is still shut as he's lets off a prayer to Hestia and the 8 divines. He's like, "Akatosh, Stendar," as he prays to each of them, and even prays to Hestia, saying, "Please grant me strength." As he readies himself as they charge in, as when Akatosh and such are trying hear his whisper of prayer, but they don't really, know where he is. As there's some form of magic upon the dungeon that prevents them from seeing too deep into it. Not too deep, but they can't really see past the first 3 floors. After that, that's pretty much a dark zone for them, for some reason. They suspect it's because probably the gods have it heavily warded and such, or something. As Bell eventually, is fighting these 3, as he's trying to keep up with strength, but strength is matching him in his strength, and possibly is just a bit stronger. Speed, Bell is outmatched in. And Cunning is launching his spells as Bell is trying to dodge them. As he eventually, sort of knocks Speed into one of the pathways of lightning, as he's struck and sent, not sent flying, but is thrown forward a little bit. As then he focuses his entire attention on strength, as he speaks in the dragon language, saying, "I am Akatosh's avatar, his champion. You shall not stop me. For my faith is strong. As they retort in the dragon language, our faith is greater. As they are pretty much fanatically. Bell isn't fanatical. He'll follow their orders. But as long as it isn't like, oh, kill 100 innocents. Yeah, he won't follow that. Plus, he knows that's not the type of gods they are. They wouldn't order him to, like, butcher 100 people just for them to be happy. As he forces back strength, as he swings, is able to, like, sort of get his smaller sword, as he flips it around and gets him right in the leg. As he leaves it in his leg, as he rushes for Cunning, as Cunning uses Frostbite and tries to freeze him over. As he's moving closer, he's like, gotta get close. As he thrusts the sword forward, as it catches him right in, like, the very tip of his stomach, as it goes in a bit, as he's like, ugh. And then he sort of pushes forward out from the ice and, like, completely gets him. Sort of smashing it downward, so it's, like, from his belly down. As Bell's like, who's next? As Strength has ripped out the sword out of his leg, he gets his healing potion, as it's a very good one, as he completely just, like, drenches his leg, as it completely heals. As Cunning is, like, grabbing his stomach, trying to push everything back in, as he starts using a healing spell. As at this point, Eyes and them come across those survivors, as they're like, there's 3 guys in dark robes with weird masks. They're attacking the bone wraith. He's outnumbered, and last time I saw, he wasn't using his magic. I think they used some sort of anti-magic on him. As they're clutching their stomachs and, like, sides, it's like, as Reveria, I believe is, like I said, her name. She's like, Eyes, Bet, Tion and Tiana, go help Wraith. I'll try to assist these two. As when they see Bell, he's fighting them off. As Strengthy actually uses his axe, as he catches Bell, sending him flying. Well, not flying, but he, like, launches him as he crashes into a pillar. As he's like, ugh. So he gets back up, grabbing his sword, getting it close to the ground as he collects some dust while on the ground. So he swings it up, causing the other two to go get dirt in their eyes. As they start swiping, Speed rushes forward, slicing, but Bell's armor is a bit tougher than 2 daggers. As then he is able to get it, as he then stabs Bell into the shoulder after seeing a point where he could. As Bell's like, oh. He grabs his arm and, like, flips him on his back. Gets his sword and swings it downward, but he's able to dodge and then kicks Bell in the face. As he then sort of cuts him along the face as well. He's like, oh. As he rushes forward again. As Tion and Tiana are like, we'll help you, Mr. Wraith. As Tion clashes with Strength, and I believe it's Tiana is the one with the weird 2-handed weapon. I forget. Yeah. I'm trying to remember both their weapons. From what I remember, Tion is the older sister with the longer hair, and then the Tiana is the one with shorter hair, I think. And she has that weird twin blade, whatever it was called. But anyways, as Bell's like taking a step back for a second, as he like grabs his shoulder and takes out the knife, he's like, oh. As they're like, Bell, are you alright? As he's like, he asked you a question, as he's like, as he like points to his throat, as it's like sort of waving it back and forth. It's like, you can't speak. As he shakes his head up and down, he's like, oh, does anyone know any anti-hex? As at that point, Strength pretty much has a not freak out, but he like explodes as his skin grows dark and kind of scaly. As he breathes in and out, he's like, "The Black King will survive you." As he charges forward, as Bel's like, "Oh no," he swings down his sword, catching strength as then Bel's pushed backwards as he is sent tumbling. He's like, "Ugh." Beth's like, "Oh, now this is my kind of fight." So he rushes forward, starts punching as strength is pushing him back even at a level, I think he's like a level 4 or 5 adventurer. Nyes is a level 6. So, as he's been pushed back, sorry. As Bel's like, ugh, he's like, ugh. He gets back up and rushes forward. Tion and Tiana are now both focusing on speed, as he has 2 powered up, his skin growing dark as well, as they notice his boots break open as they see sort of lizard-like claws on the bottom, sort of lizards or something. As he's hopping back and forth, almost blindingly fast, as they're barely able to keep up, as Bell is able to sneak up behind him, picks him up, and drops him as he picks him up with his hands. So then he drops him on his, the back of his neck. As people hear an audible crack. As Strength hears this, he rushes Bell. As Bell wants to go, to guard against him, his sword breaks, as then his shoulder pad is shattered, as well as with Bell feeling it, as he's sent and crashes into a wall. As he gets up, he's breathing heavier and heavier. As eventually, Cunning's able to get up, and after seeing his friend lying there lifeless, he gets angry as he charges up his, one of his greatest, his lightning, as then he takes it and just forces it down on Bell, as Bell's trying to keep him safe by raising up his broken greatsword, as he's using it to give him a form of cover, as he's being somewhat pushed back by the force of the lightning, as he's like, "Hold it, Bell, by the will of Akatosh, I will surveil and prevail." Not surveil, sorry, prevail, sorry. I keep on thinking of persevere, so it just sort of gets mixed up. As he forces forward, he is eventually able to somewhat get close to him, but before that, Strength, Cunning hears Strength go, as Eyes lunge forward, catching him in the throat. As Eyes as he grabs onto her sword and is pulling her close, actually being greater in strength to her, as he's as he looks at her in the eyes, as when he pulls her close, if I remember correctly, Eyes was there when the Familia, the Zeus Familia was destroyed. It's shown in the OVA, I believe, or it's the manga. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure she was there for that. As when she looks into his black crimson eyes and the dark scales and such, she sees the exact same horror as she saw then. As then she drives the sword completely to the right, having his head be lopsided. As Cunning hears this, he's like, "No!" He brings out his mace. As he brings it down, he catches Bell right into the side of the jaw. As Bell just feels a break, as he goes to the side, and starts crawling away, as he's like, "I will not fail." As he brings it back up, Bell grabs onto a I believe it's a stalactite is the ones on that are facing up, and a stalagmite is the one facing down. So he grabs it and is able to break it off. As Cunning is about to bring the hammer down, Bell grabs it and then shoves it up right through the eye. As he's like, as Cunning thinks of this for a second, with his, like, their mask, like, with, when it came to Bell, like, it fell off when they transformed. But this guy's mask was just very weak, as Bell was able to shove the stalactite through it. As he threw him off him, as Bell's like... As they look at him, his shoulder's bleeding, his right shoulder is bleeding, his left shoulder pad is completely busted up. He has a broken jaw, as he has a bit of blood leaking out of his mouth, as he gets back on his 2 feet. Goes over to his great sword that is now broken. Goes over and picks up his short sword as he reattaches it. As he goes over, as Tion, I'm not sure if any of the Loki Familia ever killed another human, quote unquote. But each of them are kind of shell-shocked, as Bell says, or, well, not Bell can say, but he points at everyone and says, or tries to signal, "Are you alright?" No one understands what he's saying. He's like... As then he just signals for them to follow him. As he's walking, they eventually meet Reveria and the rest. As Bell pretty much just sits against the wall. As he's breathing heavily. And they see his armor is kind of a bit little wrecked. More than it looked like before. Because before it just looked like parts were salvaged from it. Now it looks like there were some serious cracks forming. Bell recognizes he needs strength, far greater than what he has now. So he challenged himself to get stronger in the name of Akatosh. So he lets off a little prayer. As he signals for Reveria, saying, like pointing to his neck, and sort of waving like a no talking thing, like signing it or whatever. As I says, he can't talk. Do you know how to lift a hex? Reveria's like, oh, yes. As she uses it, as Bell's like, sorry, why am I yawning? As he says, thank you for the assistance. As he gives a bow. Sorry, my mouth is really dry. As then he walks back over to where the 3 warriors were, as he starts looting, essentially. As he sees that he wasn't able to kill as many monsters as he might have would have. And he thinks that he should probably take a break for the day, just in case there are more hiding. As then he just sort of takes their equipment and such. Takes the mask as somewhat of a memento or something, to recognize that the dragon priests are back, in a way. And that he needs to recognize that their weapons will be useful. As he takes this stuff, as they got a few things. They got poisons. As Bell realized, wait, poison. As he looked over and, like, looked at the blade. As he can't tell if it was coated or anything. So he moved over to Reveria and such. As he waved the poison around, as they're like, hang on, as they, like, one of them, I'll say, knows poison, as it's like, oh, this is bad stuff. As he, like, starts rummaging around his stuff, he's like, as he, like, finds something, he's like, here. As he, like, as the guy just drenches where his shoulder wound was. As they're like, alright, keep that rubbed in there. As he, like, grabs some other stuff and starts applying. As the Loki Familia Captain, again, he has a weird name. What was it? What was that weird name? Was it Fick? No, Finn. That's what his name was. It was Finn. There we go. Alright, so, yeah, Finn, the Loki Familia Captain, is looking over the bodies as they stayed in their transformations. As he's like, do you know who these are? He's like, as Bell tries to keep quiet, he's like, listen, we just saved your life. If it wasn't for us, you would be dead, is what Bet says, so it'd be nice to get some God's damn, how would that be said? Would it just be goddamn or God's damn it answer? I have no clue. Yeah, I guess God's damn it, I guess. As he takes a breathe in and breathe out, he's like, these are dragon cultists. As Eyes takes a flinch that, she's like, dragon cultist? As she somewhat grits her teeth, Belle says, the Black King. Warriors from a far-off land. I will not tell you. Well, he says, warriors from far away came in searching for a new god, since their old ones fell. Primarily dragons, as you will have probably guessed, submitted beneath them and upraised him as their new god. And they sought talent to destroy the cult once and for all. But I wasn't strong enough. Barely survived their encounter with the dragon. Battle was vicious, using the full might of my power. Even I couldn't bring him down. Eventually I was hit into a canyon, and eventually landed into a river. It was only thanks to my other power that I was able to survive. They've grown strong in the several months that I last encountered them. It's almost been half a year, I think. If they become gutsy enough to attack now, then they must surely be expanding their numbers, send three decently powerful ones against me. And Eyes, I think we maybe need to up my training a bit. Like, wait, Eyes, you're training him? She's like, yes. She says, yes, he asked me. She's like, wait, as Reveria says, then that magic you may know may be the key to settling all this. As he's like, you can't, like I said, takes years to master. If these dragon cultists come with adventurers and high-ranking ones at that, as well as their god, Aurario won't stand a chance. They're like, what do you mean we won't stand a chance? Aurario's the home to the adventurers. Yeah, from what I heard, the Zeus Familia and Aphrodite Familia were completely annihilated. The two strongest familias in this city joined together, threw everything they had at it, and it crushed them like bugs. Even with my power, I wasn't able to kill him. And I was using it under restraint, mind you. No. The way to stop the dragon first is to destroy the cult. Otherwise, we won't be able to destroy him at all. As he gets up, he says, if your captain wants to learn more, you may speak with me. As he talks with Finn by himself, sort of cornering him off, saying that this is for only your captain here. As Bet tries to listen in, as they all do, but Finn listens closely. Meet me here if you want more details. This cannot get out, otherwise there will be panic and people trying to say we should take care of it. Their numbers are in the thousands already. Last time I know. But now they may be indulging in slave trade or anything to get their numbers going. Trying to induct them into the cult. And I fear that their leader, or at least I think their leader, is Konarik. As he's like, how do you know so much about... As he gives a detailed description of Konarik, how he was beforehand, and he's like, how do you know so much about him? As Belle goes quiet, as then he wipes him away. Zalak was his first name. But Zalak is no more. Now all that's left is a puppet, or a power-hungry madman. Either way, he will be stopped. As he walks out of the dungeon, they're saying that last line. They're all in awe of Bell as he walks out, as he did gather up the cultist gear and such, as he sells it to some of the higher level like smiths and such, pay him hundreds of thousands of values for some of the weapons made. They say this stuff is made out of like some of the highest quality materials that they've seen in ages. Hundreds of thousands of Alice. Take that into mind. And that's just not including their, weapons. That's including the armor. Like, some of their armor is made out of great deal tough fabrics. And even the metal pieces are made out of what seems to be like old dragon scales or something. Who can't put their hands on it. As Bell returns to the church, and actually after a while levels up for the first time. As he levels up, it's like, wait, Bell, you leveled up. As Hestia, like, he gets leveled up, and his boost in stats is crazy. Like, beforehand, like, he did what Bell did beforehand, is that Bell went back and constantly grinded enemies instead of just going for level up sort of stuff. After that experience, Bell was able to level up for real. And with that being said, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. And I hope y'all continue to enjoy this. And I hope y'all have a nice day, a nice night, nice life.